How Manchester United are trying to have a cautious transfer window because of the bad deals that they've done in the past. When we're looking at the price tag attached to Sesko, it's looking like a lot of moolah. Can Manchester United afford this?
Yeah, you mean afford it and stay within the rules of financial stability? I think that's a legit question. I mean, all we heard from Jim Ratcliffe was pleading poverty and how the club are going to go to the wall if he hadn't made cuts and laid off the tea ladies and the secretaries and whatnot. They're saving themselves some considerable salaries in terms of some of the people who left, and obviously Rashford as well. But yeah, I think it's a question mark. And if you push the boat out to that level, my question also would be, are you not going to invest in the midfield at that point? Is it really going to be, Kobbie Mainoo, Casemiro, Ugarte and the gang? I mean, is this really what Amorim wants, what Amorim needs at this stage? I'm not so sure. And the other thing is, if you don't get the sequence right here, having already invested in Brian Mbeumo and Matías Cunha, you're in a situation potentially where you get Sesko, and then everybody needs, you have to go and offload, Sancho we already know about, but then Garnacho, but also probably Højlund at that stage. And then all of a sudden, people are going to be in a stronger position and have the leverage to negotiate you down. And I think that's not a good situation, I think, to be in if you're running a club's recruitment department.
I think if I may say that one of the reasons, first you see that you buy the wrong players. Okay, that is a failure of a club like Manchester United. But then you get the second wave when you try to offload them because you can't get money for them. You can't get money in. And I know the Manchester United fans don't like us to compare them with Liverpool Football Club, but Liverpool Football Club will now offload first Diaz, 75 million euro. They will probably do the same with Nunez. Will they get 65 million euro for him? So wrong recruitments, they come in waves. The first wave to get them in, and then the trouble is to sell them again.
All right, Stevie, after everything you just heard now, price tag, his qualities as well, the fact that we know that Manchester United are prioritizing a striker in this transfer window, should they just go for it?
My biggest worry is for Sesko. And quite frankly, successful teams are usually built from the back forward. And certainly successful teams are built in the guts of the team forward. You don't start up front. Look at all the players they're signing. If they sign Sesko, they've signed 3 forwards, basically. You've got to get them the ball. You've got to get them opportunities to score. And what Manchester United have right now in the middle defensively isn't good enough to produce that for those 3 players. Again, if Sesko goes. I mean, if I'm Sesko, I'd be worried that I'm going to stall at Manchester United. You try and, you look at the path that Haaland's had. He's done it the right way. He's built, and then he's joining a team in Manchester City that they're at the top of the tree. No wonder the guy continues to score goals and continues to get better. Is Sesko going to do that at Manchester United? I'm not so sure. And if they do get Sesko, Gab's talking about, financial fair play. So they're not going to have any money to strengthen the middle of the park, strengthen that defence, strengthen in goal. So, yeah, if I'm Sesko, I'm sorry, but I'm going nowhere near Manchester United.
Xhaka, what do you think? United getting their priorities wrong then?
I just think there's so many layers to this that it's a little bit confusing. Manchester United don't need the next upcoming striker to Jan's description. Manchester United needs somebody now. Now, Sesko may very well be that person, but you can't afford another miss like you had with Rasmus Højlund, who was tagged similarly 12 months ago. I'm not sure anybody really said that about Zirkzee, but he was a potential and one in the making. And then to everybody's point as well about financial, and given Manchester United have offloaded some players and saved in terms of wages, none of those have brought in any transfer funds. So added to that, you've already spent north of 150 million in replenishing your squad. You'll probably spend another 75 to bring in Sesko. Speculation about another goalkeeper, which adds on top. I'm not sure you're going to get 50 back or whatever it is that you paid for Nana, if that's the case. And all of a sudden, if some of this speculation is true about the direction of Manchester United intending to go, you again question profit and sustainability and all the noises you've been hearing from Ineos, etc. So to the question, there are a lot of layers to this that, from a business perspective, just don't quite add up. What is a definite cert, though, is Manchester United need an out-and-out striker, and it's a very small market. You see what Newcastle are doing and their interest in Sesko from the time Alexander Isak gets linked with Liverpool. That speaks to how shallow that pool is.
Jan, what's your final verdict on this, and what does the player himself probably want? Because as Xhaka pointed out, it sounds like Newcastle are also interested in his signature, especially if they do end up losing Alexander Isak to Liverpool.
What we do know is that both Manchester United and Newcastle United have told RB Leipzig they're talking to the team Sesko, so to say. I reported this morning, and I've been told that he prioritized to go to Manchester United. That's the club, if you're going to choose between these two Uniteds, Newcastle or Manchester. Also remember that the director of recruitment is Christopher Vivell. Christopher Vivell, he worked in the Red Bull system. He worked with Red Bull Salzburg. He worked with RB Leipzig. Wasn't very successful at Chelsea as technical director, but now he's back to where he is good at, director of recruitment. And I guess that will play a role for Sesko.
Manchester United over the last 10, 11 years have sort of accepted a position whereby they've made mistakes in the transfer market, or they've made mistakes in recruitment, or they've held on to players too long. It would seem that, to be fair, what's happening now is that Ruben Amorim is identifying players he does not want in the squad, and to be fair, he's moving them out of the squad. That's a positive. The second thing is, I do like, on paper, the signings of Cunha and Mbeumo. Why do I like them? A couple of reasons. Well, three actually. One is that they've got Premier League experience. One is that they look more like Manchester United styles of players, with a bit more pace and power and the ability to have that sort of physicality to be able to get from box to box quickly. I think when you look at particularly Garnacho, Sancho, Anthony, they're more jinkers, I call them, more people who sort of work in tight spaces. I've always felt at United you need players that can open the legs up and really sort of stretch teams. And I think Cunha and Mbeumo do that. And then the other thing I like about those two signings is that they've not proved themselves at the highest level yet in the game in respect of at Premier League club level or European club level. So they should be really desperate and hungry to prove themselves on a huge stage, which is Old Trafford. And that hunger hasn't always been there in the last 10 years with players that have come to the club. They've come maybe where they've been the more finished article and we've got excited by them, but maybe they've come and maybe not had that desperation. I always feel like a player needs hunger, they need desperation in the game to feel that it's the most important thing. I think these two lads that have signed will have that. So I think the two signings are good signings yet. There's a couple more needed. I think they need a goalkeeper, they need a centre forward. And I think if they can fill those two positions with decent signings, then United can have a lot. I mean, they have to have a better season than last year. It can't get any worse.